Great Demon King. Chapter 44. Cemetery of Death. The Cemetery of Death was a legendary sacred ground for necromancers, embodying the lofty hopes that the band had held upon venturing into the dark forest. Han Shuo meticulously observed his surroundings, connecting every detail to Fanny's previous descriptions. Every stark white bone and every whisper of death magic in the air confirmed his certainty. This was indeed the legendary Cemetery of Death. No wonder Han Shuo had vaguely felt something so familiar about this place earlier. His own practice of necromancy magic had attuned him to the strong pulses of death magic, permeating the area. The faint, eerie smell emanating from the illusioned white bones was something Han Shuo was exceedingly familiar with, a scent that resonated deeply with his magical senses. He gazed intently at his surroundings, absorbing every detail. Han Shuo frowned, contemplating the grim history associated with this place. Everyone who had ever seen the Cemetery of Death had met a tragic end. Now that he stood here, he faced a critical decision. Should he proceed further into this ominous ground, or turn back? The Cemetery of Death had once been a place where mighty necromancers studied and mastered necromancy. When this dark art was at its peak, all the necromancers who had once thrived here had long since died, and the cemetery had vanished without a trace, cloaked in mystery and silence. However, because this cemetery had been a research hub for those necromancers, it surely held some of their secret seed. For a rookie like Han Shuo, who had just entered the halls of magic, the temptation to uncover these secrets was immense. This internal conflict forced Han Shuo to seriously consider whether or not to embark on this dangerous adventure. After a moment of indecision, Han Shuo walked towards the center of the cemetery and stepped into the piles of stark white bones, his firm resolution evident on his face. As he took a few steps forward and ventured deeper into the heart of the cemetery, the dark green, round ball he held suddenly shot back into the jade box. The green light that had bathed the surroundings vanished almost instantly, leaving the area plunged back into its eerie stillness. Han Shuo paused, staring around in stunned silence. The outskirts, which he had just passed, had changed once more, reverting to the desolate scene he had first seen upon arrival. Only the surrounding areas near the ground beneath his feet remained the same grim tableau of death and gloom. Looking at the round ball in his hand, Han Shuo realized that this ball was the key to entering the Cemetery of Death. It seemed to possess the ability to unlock the doors to the sacred grounds. The entire cemetery was enveloped by a concealing field, making it invisible and unnoticeable to anyone from the outside. This magical barrier ensured that the cemetery remained hidden, its secrets safeguarded from prying eyes. However, with the round ball, one could reveal the true nature of the Cemetery of Death, enveloping the entire area under a veil of silence and desolation. This was a protective measure, preventing unwanted intruders from discovering the cemetery's dark secrets. The stark white bones creaked ominously beneath his feet, their sounds breaking through the still and lonely air, sending chills down Han Shuo's spine. It was fortunate that he had just successfully broken through the solid realm, which had given him a surge of courage and determination. Without paying heed to the unsettling sounds, he walked headlong towards the Cemetery of Death, driven by his curiosity and ambition. After a while, Han Shuo finally stood in front of the main entrance of the cemetery. A circular moat encircled the grand door, with inky black water flowing steadily within it. A bridge, constructed from black lines and white bones, hung over the moat in abject loneliness, inviting him to cross into the unknown. Without hesitation, Han Shuo tightened his grip on the jade box holding the round ball and stepped apprehensively onto the bone bridge. He moved slowly towards the doors of the Cemetery of Death, aware of the precariousness of the bridge. The structure swayed slightly under his weight, making him uneasy. He couldn't see what lay beneath the moat, but a single glance was enough to instill a deep sense of danger. The still, inky black waters hinted at hidden threats, amplifying his anxiety. As Han Shuo walked onto the bridge, the round ball within the jade box began to emit a strange green light once more. It acted as a miraculous remedy for his motion sickness, causing the wobbly bridge to stabilize as the green light enveloped him. The black lines, which had previously formed large gaps in the bridge, immediately solidified, seamlessly bridging the space between the bones. This magical intervention allowed him to continue his journey without faltering. Finally, Han Shuo reached the massive doors of the cemetery. 2 enormous skeletons of evil knights and their steeds stood sentinel in front of the great gray doors, made of an unknown mystical material. The presence of these formidable guardians indicated the high level of power and protection surrounding this sacred grounding. Evil knights were dark creatures known for their extremely strong battle prowess. Necromancers who were not at the archmage level were well aware that summoning such beings was beyond their capabilities. From the imposing skeletons of the 2 evil knights and the distinct shape of their battle steeds, Han Shuo could sense that these 2 were the elite among their kind. The cream of the crop. Intricate and detailed magical patterns adorned the 2 gray doors, adding to their ominous presence. A round slot was present in the center where the 2 doors intersected, resembling a keyhole that seemed designed to receive a specific key. At this moment, the dark green ball that Han Shuo held suddenly shot out a beam of green light, aiming directly for the round slot in the middle of the doors. Han Shuo's thoughts raced as he immediately understood the mechanism at play. Without hesitation, he raised the jade box and brought the ball closer to the slot, carefully inserting it. Throughout the process, Han Shuo was meticulous to ensure that his hand didn't touch the round ball. He knew that this ball was no ordinary object, and that any direct contact with his skin or flesh could trigger undesired changes. Therefore, he avoided touching it with his bare hands as much as possible, handling it with the utmost care. Once the ball was fully inserted into the slot, a thunderous roar echoed through the air as the doors abruptly opened with a creaking sound. The slot automatically split open as the doors swung inward, and the round ball remained safely within the jade box, showing no signs of alteration. Hazy gloom and dust billowed out from the newly opened doors, accompanying their movement. Han Shuo coughed a few times, the lingering particles causing slight irritation, before calming himself and observing the interior. Inside, there was a vast hall that stretched as far as the eye could see, accompanied by 6 rooms with closed doors surrounding the central area. The hall was immense, with a ceiling that soared high above, comparable in size to a basketball field. In the center of the hall lay a magical matrix in the shape of a large, 6-pointed star, about 80% to 90%, similar to the one Han Shuo had taken from the academy in the city of Zajoski. Ancient, quaint magical symbols adorned the center, hinting at the powerful necromantic rituals once performed here. Apart from the 6-pointed star matrix, the hall was sparse. A few magical pillars supported the grand structure, and broken pieces of bone lay scattered in the corners, remnants of past events. The thick scent of decay hung heavily in the air, a constant reminder of the cemetery's dark purpose. Han Shuo waited patiently at the doorway, allowing the scent to disperse slightly before venturing further inside. The atmosphere was thick with the essence of death magic, and he felt a deep connection to the place, his own necromantic practices resonating with the powerful energies surrounding him. Apart from the central 6-pointed star matrix, the hall featured only the lofty ceiling and the 6-room doors that corresponded to the points of the matrix. Han Shuo first surveyed the hall thoroughly but found nothing of immediate value. Turning his attention to the 6 rooms with closed doors, he approached each one systematically. One by one he opened and entered each room, discovering that they were merely empty warehouses. The rooms were barren, devoid of any magical artifacts or significant items, only holding echoes of past necromantic endeavors. He returned to the Great Hall, his mind racing as he recollected Fanny's previous explanations. Han Shuo remembered that only a small portion of the Cemetery of Death was visible above ground. Most of it lay buried deep underground, and the true secrets of this place undoubtedly resided in its depths. However, despite his thorough search, Han Shuo hadn't found any tunnels or stairs leading downward after exploring the Great Hall and the 6 rooms. This discovery left him perplexed, as he couldn't understand how to access the deeper parts of the cemetery that held the most valuable necromantic secrecy. After a moment of contemplation, Han Shuo concluded that the round ball in his possession was indeed the key. He began circling the hall again, carefully inspecting each corner and the 6 rooms once more. Finally, he discovered another slot in the corner of one of the rooms. His heart leapt with joy as he realized his breakthrough. Another set of rumbling sounds resonated as he inserted the round ball into the newly found slot. A dark tunnel suddenly split open the walls of the room, revealing rows of 6 silver sticks made from a strange material that was neither stone nor wood. Each stick had connection points on both ends, suggesting that the 6 sticks could be assembled into a specific configuration. Next to the 6 silver sticks lay a thin piece of paper, bearing ancient magical symbols and hastily scribbled words. Han Shuo carefully picked up the thin sheet of paper and read the inscribed instructions. He understood that these 6 sticks could form a diagram resembling a 6-pointed star, and be used in direct transportation with the magical matrix in the hall. He also realized that insufficient mental strength would prevent one from venturing further into the cemetery's depths. Despite his understanding, Han Shuo couldn't glean any additional useful information from the thin sheet of paper. Thinking briefly, he stored away the 6 magical sticks and furrowed his brow as he began walking down the tunnel. An invisible field suddenly appeared, the green light rippling outward and abruptly bouncing him back. Han Shuo felt an intense headache throughout the process, reflecting on the words inscribed on the paper. His mental strength was clearly too weak, and it was preventing him from descending any further into the depths of the cemetery. Cursing under his breath, Han Shuo decided to stay in the room. He connected the 6 magical sticks according to the instructions on the paper, forming a 6-pointed star on the floor. Standing in the center of this mini matrix, he activated it with his mental strength. In an instant, Han Shuo found himself transported to the large matrix in the center of the hall, accompanied by a flash of white light. Repeating the same method, Han Shuo infused the transportation matrix in the hall with his mental strength and returned to the small 6-pointed matrix in the room. His brow creased in deep thought as he realized that he was unable to enter the tunnel and explore the cemetery of death further. It was a relief that he had secured the 6 magical sticks and the round ball, which allowed him to return here from anywhere. This filled his heart with glee as he began to see this place as his secret base. Since he was temporarily unable to uncover the cemetery's deepest secrets, Han Shuo had no desire to remain any longer. After a moment of deliberation, he rolled up the 6 magical sticks, placed them on his back, and tucked the piece of paper into his pocket. He then walked out of the cemetery of death, holding the jade box securely in his hands. Once safely outside, Han Shuo looked back and realized that the scene remained unchanged. The tall weeds, shrubs, and towering trees stood as silent sentinels around the cemetery. The surrounding area was still cloaked in quiet desolation, untouched by his presence. A small, satisfied smile played on his lips. Han Shuo understood that this outing to the dark forest had come to an end here. He had stumbled upon the legendary cemetery of death purely by chance, a stroke of dumb luck that had granted him access to its secrets. The knowledge and items he had acquired were now his alone, safeguarding him from the scrutiny of other necromancy students and teachers.